Hello. Today I want to talk about, or I want to share my experience with soul families and soul contracts. Um, I'm trying not to like stick too much into the labels, um, but I've had certain experiences that look like that would fit into these labels. So it's a little bit of a long story, but I'm gonna try to keep it short. Um, it started about 12 years ago where I lived in a certain neighborhood and I started bumping into a guy and we would bump into each other all over the place. And it just seemed a little bit more than just a coincidence. And this started happening a few months after I had one like my first awakening at 23, um, where I ended like a serious relationship and I started living on my own, started realizing certain things about myself. Um, while we were bumping into each other, however, he looked like he was very interested or pulled, like there was like this pull, but he never actually approached. And then later on, I saw that he has someone. So I stayed away. I never said anything, but we kept bumping into each other. I actually realized that I did my laundry in his building because I was in the basement doing my laundry and he walked in. And we were like both quite surprised. And then he felt it was necessary for us to introduce ourselves. So that's how I learned his name. I moved out of that neighborhood, and then a few years later, it kind of blocked him out of my head. A few years later, I received an email from an astrologer with like my year's profile, and I was never really into that, but I was like pulled to look, and it said somebody from my past will come into my life, and in a split second, his name came into my head. So I thought, well, maybe at that point I knew how to speak to my guides. So I thought my guides were telling me something with this. So maybe he's single now. So I decided to park my car in his neighborhood, and he came out like within a few minutes. My guides were saying like he's coming. And the first time it happened, he was like across the street, and I ran into my ex's parents. So I was like stuck chatting with them, and he just like walked past across the street, like looking at me the whole time. But so I couldn't get away from these people. So I thought, let's try it again. I parked the car again, and I didn't know what car he was driving, but his car ended up being parked. Like I parked my car, there was a car in between, and then his car. Like everything was like nicely planned out without even me realizing this. So he came out within a few minutes, and I took the opportunity, and I saw he was like getting something from the car, and I drove my car out and I blocked him so he couldn't escape. And I was like pretending like, oh hey. And I asked him, so would you like my phone number? And he said, I do, but I have a girlfriend. So it was kind of like, well, that says something about what's going on with him. But at the same time, I was not willing to pursue anything. So I drove away and blocked him out of my head. The next story happened a few years later. The same thing started happening with another man. We kept bumping into each other. It happened like 6 weeks before I was supposed to relocate to another state. And again, it was like this pull, this magnetic in a very short time, within a few days, the energy was so intense that I couldn't sleep at night. And we ended up being together just so I could get some sleep. And yes, he's married and he had a baby. So I definitely was not proud of any of that. And it was really, afterwards, it was quite debilitating. Thankfully, I was moving away. So it gave me that, because if I wasn't, I mean, God knows what would happen between us. We stayed in touch emailing. So it's been like 6 years, around 7 years, I think now. It's like we have this need to every few years to just check in with each other, just to make sure everything's okay. So like a few years ago, I got some like this alarm in my cell. Like there was like an alarm just went off, and I thought of him, and so I emailed him just to see what's going on, and he said everything's good. His son was just born. So maybe that was the alarm, because it's like he's still in this marriage. We spoke like maybe a year or two prior, and he said like they were almost like on the brink of divorce, and they were able to kind of save the marriage, I guess, for the sake of their the first child. And so it was like, okay, so he's going deeper into this marriage by having another baby. So then forward to my awakening, which happened in August. Shortly into that, this man, YouTuber, this part of the truther community, showed up with a piece of information that I resonated with. And he brought out certain intense emotions in me. Like I was connected through, spiritually to him. We had this past lives together. Like I resonated with that story. And I started having visions and really intense emotions. And when I started having those intense emotions, it was like the emotions that I had with the other two men came up. And it was like, oh, it's happening again. Even though it's not the same thing, but it's like the emotions all came to the surface, even though like I blocked off both of them. So I worked through the emotions that this person triggered. It took like 2 months. I mean, it's still there, but I worked through the bulk of it. And last week or 2 weeks ago, both of these men that were unavailable came into my life. So the one that I've emailed with, he emailed me again, just to check in. And then the other one, 2 days later, popped up on my Facebook feed, like as a friend suggestion, which I literally have not seen him for maybe 8-9 years now. And it was like such a coincidence that it happened within the same week as the other one. And literally I was just working through the emotions that were literally just recently triggered. So I pursued it, like just to see like what's this about now, because when the first one emailed me, my ego right away guarded and like he said, how are you? I'm like, everything's good. How are you? Everything's good. And that was it, so I sense like, okay, my ego is blocking this off, and I can't do that anymore. Like on this path, everything needs to be resolved, and can't treat things like on the 3D right and wrong kind of thing. He's married, so I can't even go in that direction. Everything needs to be blocked off because it's wrong. On a spiritual 5D or moving towards 5D level, There's no such thing. Everything needs to be clear, and everything happens for a reason. They didn't just pop into my life for no reason. It has nothing to do with sex. It has nothing to do with us getting together, and we belong together. This is I mean, the sense that I have when these two men popped back in and all sorts of emotions came up was that, one, I know them, even though I barely know them in reality, especially the other one. Like I just have a sense of knowing. Not know like what's their favorite color or what's their favorite dessert or things like that. It's just a knowing that we've spent many lifetimes together. And we're actually, I'm getting emotional. We've spent many lifetimes together. We're in this lifetime together for a reason. And we will spend future lifetimes together if we reincarnate. Like, these are soul families. And we've been everything for each other. We've switched roles. We've done all sorts of things on Earth and elsewhere. As I went deeper, I started getting some images, not necessarily like visions, but like they seemed to be more symbolic, and I was seeing like certain figures that was not of this world. So, you know, he's one of them is happily married with kids already, and of course there's this block where, and it's going deeper and trying to clear out all of this karma now, because the sense that I have is I got to clear out the entire past in order to have a future. And the past is not of just this lifetime of us bumping into each other. The past is all of the lifetimes, because we are all heading into a new world, all of us. And the work that I'm doing of clearing the karma is affecting the past, the present, and the future for our souls and our children and anybody's involved. It's all this energy that's is radiating out. So it's been extremely, extremely painful. I mean, I look like crap because I've been barely sleeping and eating for like a week, if not more. And the picture is not fully clear yet. Like I can see the chronological events. I can see like the patterns. I see like what's required, the clearing of the karma, so that I can have a future, so that I can meet the one that I'm supposed to meet in this lifetime to form my future, and so that I can fulfill my purpose in this life. All the karma needs to be cleared. The entire heart wall needs to be clear, and they're part of it. Since they've been with me for so long, they're part of the heart wall, and that's where I feel it, in the heart. And it's, I mean, I've cried like every day almost, and it feels like this letting go and mourning this huge, huge relationship. You know, their wives have them in this life, but I've have them forever. I mean, it's not like a possession, but it's like it's like this attached, this, we're part of each other almost. It's like, and it feels like it's so unfair, you know, because of societal rules, these 3D rules of right and wrong, and you know, again, it's her, like, it makes, when these feelings come up, it makes the ego turn it into more than it actually is, like makes it turn it into sex, like the mind interprets it, oh, it's about sex, and it's not. Like, love is not about sex. The love I feel for these beings, this essence, not men, but essence, is not because they're funny, or not because they're cute, or not because they're did something nice for me. It doesn't actually doesn't matter what they do. Like, either whatever they do will benefit me either way. Like with one of them, the one in the happy relationship, he's also like on a spiritual path of awakening as well. Not sure as a light seed, but like he's a yogi now. And I decided, like, I had the need to share my truth with him, so I shared a portion of what I was going through, and it just felt like I have the need to share my truth. Like, that's part of um, my lessons in this life, because my truth has been so stifled since the very beginning of my incarnation, that I've just been just exercising telling my truth in this, like, recently. It's just part of my lesson. So, like, and I was terrified to tell him, because I thought he was going to say something horrible, like reject me. And then at the same time, it's like, well, who cares if he does? Like, what would happen if he does? Like, who cares? It's about me sharing my truth. And it's like, I finally got myself to the point of just like sitting with my emotion, and like, whatever he says doesn't matter. It's about me. I will love me no matter what. And it's like, this fear is um the lack of love for self. And this is the exercise to share the truth and not care about the whiplash, because you will be you no matter what. I will be me. I will love myself no matter what. No matter. And he actually surprised me and came out like a really, really nice response. Not like, what the hell is this? But it was like actually offering to help, because he's like, he kind of understands what I'm going through. I don't know where that's going to go. We haven't like really discussed of how, but either way, like, I don't actually require it or need it. It's, if he wants to, great. If not, I'm still doing my thing. And but if he came out with something aggressive, it would be the same thing. I would still go in and love myself no matter what. So it's like, these lessons there that these men, these beings, these essences is giving me is so precious. It has nothing to do with sex. It has nothing to do with meant to be. We are meant to be. We're together. We're one, split and helping each other along this journey, so that I can ascend, and then maybe in the next life it will be his turn to ascend, you know, and then another life it will be the other one's turn to ascend, and we're all kind of, because I have experience with it, I'll be somehow guiding him, not with maybe directly, but even rejecting somebody is already helping them, you know, because it pushes them to go within. So that's the precious relationships that have this essence that in all angles is still guiding you no matter what. Even if it's painful, it's still guiding you. So yeah, this is like my experience with soul families and soul contracts. And I wanted to kind of also talk about it, because this human notion of just attacking and criticizing somebody who is drawn to somebody who's unavailable, right? Who's in a relationship or in a marriage, and you hear it all the time. You know, I'm not talking to somebody who's like wants to take somebody away, but there's always like this story. I've come across other people's stories that like, I'm drawn to this person. I know I shouldn't be, And you know, they have this inner conflict. They know that it's wrong, and the mind interprets it based on societal values, and without the inner understanding that there's something more going on here. And you can see, like, when people share this in a group, let's say in a Facebook group or something, the attack that comes of criticism. And you, like, I was called a whore when I shared this personal, like, a portion of this story in another group for people who are suffering with these kind of feelings, you know. And it's like, well, how can you be in this group to learn and to give other people support, and when somebody shares their story and opens up their heart, you attack with word name calling and criticism? How is that going to help that person? Oh, it's like right away snap into it, like, where are your morals? Morals is a 3D human construct to put people in their boxes, in their cages. Spirituality doesn't have morals, it has lessons. So this video is, like, I guess, twofold, to remind people, like, what compassion, and compassion that maybe if somebody's doing something wrong, doesn't mean that they're not suffering. I was suffering greatly. My self-esteem tumbled. I was in so much pain both times. And actually, the only way I could express my pain was through writing poetry. The first time, it was the first poem I wrote. It was about the guy, the first one. And then I wrote 90 poems after that. Not about him, but just like everything. But the pain was so deep, so intense, that it helped me to go that deep and write and write and write and write about just so yeah, again, it's just because people are doing whatever is perceived as wrong societally doesn't mean they're not in pain, doesn't mean that they're so proud of it. Yeah, and I think that could be a huge lesson to move for us to go into the 5D